Mandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupaswarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhaktashaktikam Namah Pankajanabhaya Namah Pankajamadine Namah Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajangraye Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagatgurum Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Sarvebhyo Namaha. Sarvesham Krite Swagatam. So until now we have completed the 7 shlokas in the 10th chapter. Very quickly I will revise them. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Bhuya eva mahabaho shunu me paramam vachaha yatteham priyamanaya vakshyami hitakamyaya. Shri Bhagavan begins the 10th chapter by telling Arjuna that because you are receiving my words with love and affection, I will again repeat those supreme words that I am speaking to you for your benefit. Then he starts pointing out his unique position, his preeminent position as the Supreme Person. Name vidu suraganaha prabhavam na maharshayaha aham adirhi devanam maharshinam cha sarvashaha. I am the original cause of the great sages, the devas, and they don't understand me because I am beyond them. Yomam ajam anadim cha veti loka maheshwaram asammudha samarteshu sarva papaihi pramuchyate. But one, on the other hand, who understands my real nature as someone who is never born, who doesn't have a birth, even though it appears like I have a birth, and that is a real birth. I take birth in the womb of a mother, but at the same time, I don't have any birth. I am beyond birth and death. So who understands this and who knows that I don't have an origin, I don't have a creation, I'm beyond creation as well, and who knows that I am the supreme master of all the worlds, of all the planets, of all the people. Such a person who's got clear thinking, asammudaha, who knows this with clarity, no ambiguity, no doubt. Such a person does not face any obstacles to my bhakti. Buddhir jnanam asammoha kshama satyam damashamaha sukham dukkham bhavo bhavo bhayam cha bhayameva cha ahimsa samata tushtis tapodanam yasho yashaha bhavanti bhavaha bhutanam matta eva prithagvidaha. All these 20 qualities that I have listed here, they come from me only. Shri Bhagavan says this is just a sample, just to show you that everything originates from me. Maharshaya sapta purve chatvaro manavastatha madbhava manasa jata yesham loke imah prajaha. Says the 7 Maharishis, the Saptarishis, the 4 Kumaras, then the 14 Manus. These are also people who actually come from me. They are my mental creation and they are the progenitors. So the origin of even all these people that you see now, they come from these people and they then in turn come from me. Etam vibhutim yogam cha mama yo vetti tattvataha. So avikampena yogena yujyate natra samshayaha. So I've given you a sample of my splendor. Vibhuti means splendor or magnificence, my grandeur. So this is just a small sample of that. And who understands or who is able to appreciate this and who also knows the yoga. Yoga means the process by which one can connect with me, one can attain me. One who understands this in truth, tattvataha, means understands this as it is, as it's meant to be understood. Such a person, he becomes inspired because he gets clarity and he becomes inspired to perform my yoga. Avikampena yogena means yoga which is very steady, unshaken, undisturbed yoga, very, very steady yoga, committed yoga. And such a person commits to that yoga, which means if one has to practice yoga, or specifically bhakti yoga, then one should first have an understanding of all this. One should understand that Sri Bhagavan is such a kind of person. not with just some arbitrary understanding, but this clear understanding that is given in the Bhagavad-Gita. In the Gita, the Sanskrit used is very simple and very straightforward. So there is very little scope for interpreting this in a very different way. You can get different shades of meaning, but ultimately they will all fall under one broad category, something like what I told you now. You cannot radically interpret this to be something different. It's so simple, straightforward Sanskrit. So with this understanding coming from the shlokas here, if one commits himself to yoga, then he will be able to attain Sri Bhagavan. He says, Natra samshayaha. There is no doubt about this. Okay, then having said this, he next speaks four shlokas, uh, which are considered by Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur as the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. So if you have to summarize all the 700 shlokas of Bhagavad Gita into just four shlokas, then what would those four shlokas be? So they are the four shlokas that we are going to do next. In today's class, we will do two of them. And then in the next class, we will do the remaining two. So these four shlokas, let's see what they say. Shri Bhagavan begins 10th chapter, 8th shloka. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattah sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante ma buddhaha bhava samanvitaha. So he says, Aham, that is me, sarvasya, of everything that exists, prabhavaha, the origin, the root cause of all causes. Okay, so we talk about in management, we speak about root cause analysis. Because when you try to resolve a problem, then you first start by saying, okay, what caused this problem? And then you ask the question, okay, what caused those things? And then you trace it back even further and say, so this way you ultimately try to identify a root cause, which then if you can address, then all the intermediate causes will be resolved and finally the problem will be resolved. So Sri Bhagavan is the root cause of all the other causes for the phenomena that we see around us, including our own bodies. Okay, we exist now in these bodies and we identify with those bodies and the identities of those bodies. So this is our existence, right? And all the matter which surrounds us, like this room, this building, this campus, this city, this world, etc. We live in that. And so everything comes from something before it, and that thing comes from something else before that. And so on, if we go backwards, then it will end in Bhagavan. Bhagavati tasya paryavasanam bhavati. It will end ultimately in Sri Bhagavan. He is the origin of everything. Okay, so mattah aham sarvasya prabhavaha mattah sarvam pravartate. Pravartate means something gets into action. Phenomenon, any phenomena that we see, different types of activities happen. Natural phenomena are happening, right? So we have the rain, the sunshine, we have thunderstorms, we have a winter. So all the natural phenomena that occur involve some kind of action of different kinds of elements. So pravartate means it initiates from me. All those phenomena are initiated by me, by my energies. Aham sarvasya prabhavaha mattah sarvam pravartate. Iti matva, understanding this. Iti means this, in this manner. Matva, thinking this way or understanding this properly. Bhajante mam buddhaha bhava samanvitaha. Buddhaha means intelligent people. People who are wise, people who are intelligent, they are called buddhaha. So buddhaha is an intelligent person who is learned, who is thoughtful. You can come here, you can sit here, a lot of space here. Buddhaha, intelligent people, what do? Mam bhajante, they worship me. They engage in my service. The dhatu bhaj in Sanskrit refers to doing an activity which the person who is the target of that activity is pleased with. So a very simple translation of bhaj or bhajante or bhajate would be serve, to render service to. That would be a simple translation. Okay. So mam bhajate means they render service to me. They engage in what is pleasing to me. Ekata anukulata, we said. That's the essence of bhakti. So they engage in ekata and anukulata to me. Iti matva, having understood what I just said, aham sarvasya prabhavo mattah sarva pravartate. Knowing this, mam bhajante, buddhaha man bhajante. Then he gives one more phrase here, bhava samanvitaha. Okay, very important to understand this. This is the essence of bhakti. Bhava samanvitaha. Bhava generally means emotion, feeling, etc. But here specifically, bhava means affection, preeti, love, with affection. Samanvitaha, endowed with affection. Okay, so bhakti is something that is performed with love and affection for the object of that bhakti, whatever it is. In this case, it is Krishna. But if somebody says, I am a bhakt of Ma Durga or Ma Saraswati or Shiva, Shivji ka bhakt hu, which whatever it is, if it is bhakti, then it should be performed with that bhav, with preeti, with affection to that deity. Now, this is not well understood in society. Because if you see how people approach God, a majority of people, if you want to identify the moods with which or the motivation or the thinking with which people approach God, a lot of people, you can say the bottom of that pyramid is people who think of God as an object of fear, an authority, or if I don't do this, then that thing will be angry with me. नुकसान हो जाएगा, कष्ट में पड़ जाएंगे. Therefore, you should do. Out of fear, people are driven to do something, whatever they think should be done, like some vrata or some jap, right? Or some jagaran in the night. ये तो हर साल करते आए हैं. अगर इस साल टूट गया तो भगवान को कोप आएगा, इसमें भगवान का शाप मिलेगा. शाप मिलेगा, शाप मिलेगा. So pap and shap is what drives people. The fear of that drives people to do those activities. They don't like those activities. They don't take pleasure in them. They have to do them out of fear. Just like if you're working in some organization where the boss is very strict, he says that if you don't come on time and punch, then this is what will happen to you. So you go there out of fear. You may do anything. You may kill your wife and go, but you will go and do it out of that fear that if I don't do it, then this is what will happen to me. Right? You will break every other consideration. So people, that is why religion becomes hostile sometimes. People, become very hostile when they practice religion. There's a lot of anger surrounding them. There's no happiness. You don't see the happiness on their face because of practice of religion. That is proper practice of religion. Proper practice is when there is love. Not only love towards the deity, when there is love towards the deity that you worship, automatically there will be love towards everybody else. Because you understand that the deity that you're worshipping is the summum bonum of everything. Like when you serve Krishna, you know that Krishna is not just one person. Krishna includes everything. Maya tatamidam sarvam. Here, ham sarvasya prabhavo. Everything originates from me, everything belongs to me, everything lies in me. So if you have love for Krishna, then automatically there is love for everything else. And you treat everybody with respect, affection, consideration, kindness, compassion. Of course, rules are always there. Rules govern the working of society. We cannot avoid them. But even how you implement the rules, you implement them with love, with affection. You learn how to live a life with love. And when you live with love, then there is happiness. When you live with anger, there is no happiness. All the time you're stressed out, right? That's why this shloka is extremely important. Buddhaha bhava samanvitaha. Intelligence means engaging in the service of Sri Bhagavan with love. Bhava samanvitaha. I am the original cause of everything that exists, and all phenomena proceed from me, are under my supervision. The intelligent, having understood this and endowed with love, engage in my service. Okay, here one more minor point. Under my supervision, I've added this because just like he says here, mattaha sarvam pravartate, everything originates from me. Elsewhere he says, maya dhyakshena prakritihi suyate sacharacharam, hetunanena kaunteya jagat viparivartate. All phenomena in this universe are run by Prakriti. There's something called Prakriti. Prakriti is the material energy, that's the cause of all the material activities. But maya dhyakshena, under my adhyaksha, I am the adhyaksha of that. I am the boss. I am the supervisor. Prakriti is my servant. She listens to me. Okay, so that shloka resonates with what he says here. So this is the 10th chapter, 8th shloka. In the 9th shloka, Sri Bhagavan continues. He had just now said that the intelligent people engage in his service. So how do they engage in his service? What do they do specifically? Okay, in a very brief way, in a nutshell, he says, Matchittaha matgata pranaha bodhayantav parasparam kathayantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. So matchittaha means mahi chittaha yasya saha. one whose consciousness is in me, one whose mind resides in me, or in whose mind I always reside, who's always thinking about me, whose considerations in life are based on what I like and what I don't like. Okay, that is called Matchitta, right? Just like when, suppose, I mean, to give you a very crude analogy, suppose there is two people having an affair with each other. Okay, they are in a romantic relationship. Now, in that condition, how will their mind be? What will be going on in their mind? They'll be thinking about each other all the time, right? Even if they don't, it's not logical. It's not that they are planning, okay, today I should think of that person. It's not like my व्यक्ति का जप करना चाहिए. No, you don't think I should do japa of that person. You don't have to, because spontaneously that person resides in your mind and you are residing in that person. All the time you're thinking of that person, right? It's just like that. So when you have an affection for Bhagavan and his considerations are the predominant thing in your life, then all the time you're residing in that person. Mat chittaha, mat gata pranaha, one step higher than that. Pranaha means, the vital energy. Prana is translated as the vital energies, or those currents of energy which run in our system. They actually are part of our linga sharira, not the sukshma sharira. The stula sharira. They are part of the sukshma sharira, the subtle body. What is translated in English as the subtle body. So a part of the subtle body are these elements called as pranas. So we said there are 5 pranas. Prana, first one is called prana itself. Prana, apana, vyana, udana, samana. And they perform in the gross body. Once they are, once the jivatma occupies the gross body, then they perform different activities in the gross body. Like, for example, our digestion, the evacuation, the movement of air in the body, inhalation, exhalation. All these they happen by the proper functioning of these 5 pranas. And there are 5 upapranas also, Naga, Kurma, Krikara, and so on. So they perform other supplementary activities like the blinking of the eyelids. What is it called? Belching. Once we eat food, we have belching. So all that happens with those upapranas, 5 upapranas. So totally there are 10 pranas, 5 mukhya pranas and 5 upapranas. Now these pranas, Madgata prana, he says, that these pranas also are dependent on me. Means in the mind of the bhakta, if for some reason he is disconnected from me, he feels disconnected from me, it's as if he has lost his prana. Usme se pran chala gaya. When do we say that? In Hindi, when we say, usme abhi pran nahi hai, pran chala gaya. What do we mean by that? The person has died, right? So it's just like that. When they feel that separation from Bhagavan, then it's just like an experience of death. Oh my God, where is he? Where can I next connect with him? Okay, that feeling. Matgata prana, the pran resides in me. They're so attached to me. Okay, now to give you another crude analogy, it's just like, let's say, parents of a child. Okay, now I'm not even taking the most unfortunate incident that the child dies. Let's not even go that far. Let's take that the child grows up and goes to a hostel to stay. Okay, and many of you would have experienced this. Now, don't your parents feel that pain when you leave them and come? All of us go through this, right? When you leave for the first time, you've grown all the time you have been in the house. Since your childhood, they've seen you growing up. And suddenly one day you have to leave because you have to go to the hostel and study, right? Your institute requires you to be a residential candidate, or it's in a different city. So you have to go. At that point of time, your mother, your father, they feel that separation. They feel that the house doesn't seem the same anymore. Your clothes are no longer there. Your activity is no longer there. Your misbehavior is no longer there. Okay, when you are there, they were irritated by it. But when you're not there, they miss it. Right? So this is the meaning of a very, very crude meaning of how much the separation from somebody you love can cause depression, a lack of activity, a lack of energy, lack of enthusiasm. This is the meaning of Matgata Prana. This is much more when in Bhakti, because Bhagavan becomes an integral part of us, completely integral part of us. So when there is a feeling of separation from Bhagavan for whatever reason, then you become like you're lifeless. Okay. So matchittaha matgata pranaha bodhayantah parasparam. So parasparam, mutually to each other. The bhaktas to each other, bodhayantah. They talk to each other about me. They talk to each other about me. Whenever they meet each other, whenever there is something to talk about, I figure in that conversation in some way or the other. Okay, they talk about what activities have been done. Okay, did you go to the market and buy those flowers? You're planning to buy flowers yesterday. Have you finished the bhog offering for today? You have to do it or you're doing it? Okay. Well, you are working on, converting some of the shlokas from Sanskrit to Hindi. You are translating. How is it progressing? Is it progressing well? So in the conversation, somehow or other, Bhagavan features. They're all the time talking to each other. Bodhayanta means not only just talking about him, but informing, educating each other, telling that, okay, this is the way Bhagavan should be understood, not that way. There's a fine point, I was reading the shloka in the Bhagavatam and this point came across. So in this way, you try to tell each other. Kathayanta. Kathayantascha mam nitam. Kathayantaha means telling my stories, telling my narratives, my leelas. Okay, so naturally, when you meet somebody, then you want to recount, and then you find some situation, and instead of comparing that situation with some mundane thing, immediately you compare. You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of how Krishna lifted the Govardhan hill. भगवान ने जब गोवर्धन पर्वत को अपने बाएं हाथ पे उठाया था, कैसा था? तो उसका याद आ रहा है यार अभी. So this way, kathayantah, remembering my story, remembering my narratives. Kathayantascha mam nityam, all the time. This is how they talk about me. And tushyanti cha ramanti cha. What happens when you do all this? Tushyanti, they feel so satisfied. They live in the state of satisfaction. Ramanti means pleasure. They find pleasure in this. It's so pleasurable to do this. So this is how my bhaktas are. So I just told you, Buddhaha bhava samanvitaha, but I'm not sure you understood what that meant, Arjuna. And therefore, I'm now telling you, this is what is meant by bhava samanvitaha. Matchittaha madgata pranaha bodhayantah parasparam kathayantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. Their minds are absorbed in me and their vital energies, pranas, reside in me. Perpetually describing and enlightening each other about me, they remain happy and delighted. Always happy and delighted. Okay, so this is the key to happiness that the Bhagavad-Gita is prescribing. So, 8th and 9th shloka we have just had a look at. I was just telling you in the beginning of this class that Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that 4 shlokas, if you have to summarize the entire Bhagavad-Gita, Gita ka sar kya hai, if you want to say that in just 4 shlokas, then these are the first 2 of them. And the next 2 are the 10th and the 11th shlokas, which we will touch upon in the next class. Okay, so 8, 9, 10, and 11 of the 10th chapter together, they are called the Chatushloki Bhagavad-gita, if you want to summarize. So in the next 2 shlokas, what will come? I'll give you a brief trailer. Shri Bhagavan there tells. Now, he has described what the bhaktas do. In the next 2 shlokas, he describes how he reciprocates with them. What does he do in response to what they do? How does he respond to this? And it's beautiful. Okay, so we will hold that in suspense for the next class. And what we'll do now is we will continue with the narrative of Bhishma, which we started 2 classes back. We are now in the part 3 of that story. So for the benefit of those who are coming for the first time, I will quickly narrate what happened in the last 2 parts, part 1 and part 2. In part 1 of this story from the Mahabharata, we're reading from the Mahabharata, and the story of Bhishma begins from the 96th chapter of the Adi Parva of Mahabharata. Mahabharata has got 18 parvas, about 2000 odd chapters. So the 96th chapter of the Adi Parva begins with the curse of Mahabhisha from Brahma, and Brahma blesses him also that he will be born from Ganga in the next life. Parallelly, the Vasus, the 8 Vasus, the Devatas, they are getting cursed. They get cursed by Vasishta and they get cursed to be born as human beings. And Ganga favors them by saying, I will become the mother for you and I will also deliver 7 of you as soon as you are born. In the meantime, on the earth, Mahabhisha is born as Shantanu, the son of Pratipa in the Yadu Vamsha, in the Kuru Vamsha. And Shantanu marries Ganga. They have an encounter on the bank of the river Ganga. So Mother Ganga, who is the deity of the river Ganga, she comes and they fall in love with each other. Mutually, there is attraction from both of them. And that is arranged by the higher, you can say, the Shri Bhagavan arranges this. And when this marriage happens, Ganga has 7 sons, one after the other over 7 years. And each of them, immediately after birth, she kills. Shantanu doesn't understand why. Ganga is just fulfilling her promise to the Vasus that she had made earlier. that she will deliver them. The Vasus are born as the first 7 sons, the 7 of the Vasus, and each of them gets liberated from that birth, human birth, and goes back to Swarga Loka. The 8th son is born, and she again tries to do that, but Shantanu stops her. Thereby, he breaks his promise to her. Ganga says that now you've broken the promise that you made to me, and now I'm going to leave you. But I won't kill this child. This child will be with me. I will bring him up. And his name is Devavrata, also called as Ganga Datta or Gangeya. He gets all these names in the beginning. And she takes him with her. She brings him up. She gets him educated in the best possible schools. Okay, she gives him the best education with Vasishta and other rishis, great rishis. So he becomes very competent. He knows Artha Shastra, he knows Dhanush Shastra, he knows Niti Shastra, he knows Veda, he knows the Vedangas, everything that an intelligent person can possibly know. He gathers the entirety of knowledge. And at the age of about 15 years approximately, when he's still young in his youthful, very youthful stage, she brings him back as she had promised to Shantanu and hands him over to Shantanu. So then she leaves and she says, now you bring him up. So Shantanu comes back and his character is described in this is what we covered in part 2 of the story, which was in the last session. This is in chapter number 100. Chapter 100 alone is quite elaborate, where Shantanu's character as an exemplary king, a person with very high qualities, is described. And Shantanu, this is where actually she hands over. Handing over happens here, not in the first part. Then he finds this boy shooting arrows and stopping the flow of the river. He's taken aback by that behavior because he's never seen somebody of that kind of prowess. So then Devavrata is handed over to Shantanu by Mother Ganga, and she leaves. And Devavrata's character is next described as very similar to that of his father and probably even excelling that his own father's qualities. And Devavrata grows up in the company of Shantanu. Then Shantanu has an encounter just 4 years later, 4 years after Devavrata is brought by Ganga. He meets this very charming lady, very divine looking lady with this boatman in the forest on the bank of Yamuna, right? On the bank of Yamuna. So he doesn't know who she is. He asks her. She tells him that she's the daughter of a boatman. She takes him to the father. And Shantanu immediately asks her for her hand in marriage because he now needs a queen. He doesn't have a queen. He's been living without a queen for so many years. So he asks her, he feels that she is qualified to be his queen. And he puts a condition. The father puts a condition that if you want my daughter, then I just want you to, I'm very happy to give her to you because you are the most qualified person to marry my daughter. She's a divine girl. She's not an ordinary girl. And you are the most qualified person, but still I have a condition. And the condition is that the son born of this girl should be the next king. And that puts Shantanu into a major dilemma. It's a typical, what is called a strategic dilemma in our language. It's a strategic dilemma because there are two important things to be achieved. One is that Bhishma should be the next king, or rather Devavrata, who is now still Devavrata, is not yet called Bhishma. Devavrata, who is very dear to his father because of his extraordinary qualities. He should logically also be the king, and also because he's got such great qualities, there is no doubt that he should be the king. He will be the best person to, take the Vamsha forward, the dynasty forward, because he will uphold Dharma at all cost. And he will ensure that this world is a good place to live. So Shantanu has absolutely no, double thinking there that somebody other than this Devavrata can be the next king. And here is this fisherman who says that this girl's daughter should become the next king. And Shantanu also wants that girl in marriage. He wants her as the queen. There's nobody else he has found who is good enough to be his queen. So it is only this lady, and he has found her, and he's so happy that he has found a person like that who can be the next queen. And now he is encountering this problem. What does he do? So Shantanu is extremely sad, and Devavrata goes to him, and he says, Father, I see you to be not your normal self. You are always so cheerful, enthusiastic, happy, ruling taking your decisions with such clarity and everything. But now I see you looking sad and depressed and everything. Please tell me what is the reason. Shantanu is not able to share the real reason. So he gives him an indirect reason. He says that, look, I have only one son, that's you. And it's not a good situation to be in because it is said that having only one son is as good as not having any child. Because for example, if something happens to you, then who will succeed? Who will be the next king? So I feel the need to have a wife and, have backup, have another son. So that's what is causing my sadness. I don't have a wife right now, and I'm sad about it. Devavrata realizes that, yeah, it's actually the problem is in that direction, but that's not the full problem. His intuition tells him that there is more to this. So he goes and checks with the minister. The minister tells him that this is what happened. And the best person who will tell you the details is the charioteer who went with him there. So he goes to the charioteer. Charioteer tells him in detail what happened. So immediately, Devavrata says, I am going to take the responsibility and resolve this problem for my father. Okay, he's extremely responsible. He feels his father's pain. So he goes with the charioteer to the forest. He meets the fisherman. And he, of course, after doing all this background checks, and there's a conversation between him and that fisherman. And the fisherman again reiterates the condition that I want her son to be the next king. And for Devavrata, that's a no problem at all. It's a no-brainer. He says, what's the big deal in that? So he raises his hand in front of all the kings. He's gone there not alone, not only with the charioteer, but with a lot of other kings, a lot of subordinate kings who are under Shantanu and ministers and so on. So it's a big following, a big convoy has gone there. Okay, he's a prince after all. And so he raises his hand and faces all the kings and makes a very bold proclamation. Rajyam tavat purvamev maya tyaktam naradipaha. Apatya hetorapi cha karishye adya vinishchayam. So actually this shloka comes after he has given up. So first he gives up. That's not there in this shloka. He gives up his kingdom. Immediately when the fisherman says that her daughter should become the king, immediately at that point, without second thought, he says that I will give up my kingdom. That person, that son of this lady, if she marries my father, he will become the king. He says that right away. Okay. Now he's saying the fisherman, he is not still convinced. He says, okay, you said that will happen, but I still have one more fear that what can happen is that your sons, after all, you're also a prince and you will get married at some point of time, and you are much older than her sons, because now she is going to go and her son will be born, maybe. So at least there'll be a difference of 20 years between you and so her, your sons, you will now soon have your sons, and they can always stand up and say that, we are the sons of the elder son, and therefore we should have the right to the kingdom. And they can prevent her son from becoming the king, or they can come and fight with that son and then remove him. After all, this is Kshatriya Dharma, right? So I have a fear that that can also happen. How do we address that fear? Once again, Bhishma or Devavrata has no second thought. Immediately the solution comes to his mind, and this is where he speaks this shloka. He says, Rajyam tavat purvameva maya tyaktam naradipaha. O kings who are assembled here, you are the sakshi for this. You are my witness. You know that I have already given up the kingdom. A few minutes back, I said, I don't want the kingdom. But now, apatya hetorapi chakarishe vinishchayam, adya vinishchayam, I make one more vow in the line of saying, I will not have any children. Adya pravriti me dasha, brahmacharyam bhavishyati, aputrasyapi me lokaha bhavishyanti akshaya divi. He says that from today onwards, adya pravriti me dasha, dasha means the fisherman, oh fisherman, brahmacharyam bhavishyati, I will practice naishtika brahmacharya. Aputrasyapi me lokaha, even though I won't have any son or any daughter, any child, the Swargaloka will be mine. I will live in Swargaloka for having made this vow. Okay, this is a very significant statement, because for a Kshatriya, or for in general, for anybody in the Varnashrama, any civilized person, to go to Swargaloka and to remain there for a long time, the understanding in our Varnashrama system is that the sons, they will do, what are called as Pitra Karma after I die, after that person dies. And by virtue of that Pitra Karma, this Pitras will get Punya. Punya will be earned by them, and that will sustain their existence in the Swarga lokas. Even if they have done pap somewhere, the Pitra Karma done by their children will give them punya, remove that pap and give them punya, and that will sustain their existence in heaven. So here Bhishma says, even though I will not have any children, I am not afraid that my sustenance in heaven is being threatened, because for this act that I am doing for my father, I will always be in Swarga Loka. Akshaya. Okay, then seeing that enormous wow, because it's not easy for a, a king to or a prince to say this. To first of all say that I don't want the kingdom. Okay, we can go back to Mahabharata and see that the Pandavas did this. Pandavas said we're willing to give up the kingdom, but still we have to do our Kshatriya dharma, so please give us 5 villages. And in contrast, Duryodhana says, I won't give you even enough land to put a pin inside, right? So for a prince, for a typical Kshatriya to say that I'll give my land away, right? Just think, I mean, even today in this world, how easy is it for someone to give over their land to somebody? How dear is land to us, how property to us, right? Real estate. How dear is it? So a prince is saying, I'll give up my kingdom. And then he says, I'll give up my whole prospect of even having a family, having a wife. Kshatriya is entitled to marry multiple women. Typically, great kings have many wives, right? And many children through them. He's saying, I will not get married. So this kind of a vow is unparalleled. It's unheard of. And so when that happens, he says from the heaven, Vyasdev is writing this, Tato antarikshe apsaraso devaha sarshiganastada, who are all watching this. Because this incident attracted a lot of attention. Just like today, if something major happens, a lot of media, whole population follow, all over the world, people follow that thing, right? So all over the universe, people are following this event. What's going to happen now? They're watching this and they are amazed by what happened. So from the Swargaloka, the Apsaras, the Devas, and the Rishis, they are dropping flowers. Antarikshe, Apsaraso Deva Sarshikanaha, Abhyavarshanta Kusumaihi, flowers, fragrant flowers. And Bhishmo Ayamiti Chabruvan. They said, this is Bhishma. Bhishma means something that is enormous, audacious. In English, we say audacious, doing something audacious. Awesome. We say awesome, right? Awesome is a common word today. Awesome, absolutely awesome, unbelievable. Right? We can't believe this. Bhishma, that's the meaning of this word, Bhishma. Okay, so then from then onwards, his name becomes Bhishma. And then his father, he goes back and he hands over Satyavati. His father has no clue until that point of time that all this is going on. And suddenly he sees Mother Satyavati walking there into his chamber. And Devavrata standing there with his head bowed down. And with Vinamrata, he tells his father that I brought Mother Satyavati for you. I know that this is what was troubling you, but now I've resolved it for you. And he tells him what vow he has taken. So his father is, he find it very difficult to, he's in complete amazement for what his son has done. So he blesses him. And the blessing he gives is again an extraordinary blessing. It's a Bhishma blessing. He says, Nate mrityuh prabhavita yavad jivitum ichchati tvatto hyanugyam samprapya mrityuhu prabhavita nada. He says, as long as you want to remain alive in this world, you can remain alive. And if death wants to take you away, she has to or he has to take your permission. Death has to take your permission to take you away from here. That's the second line. Vattaha anugyam samprapya. Only after taking permission from you, death can take you away. Till then, no. Nobody can come near you. Death cannot come near you. You can live as long as you want to live. Okay, so this is a blessing, the Bhishma blessing that Bhishma gets from his father. Okay, then what happens? So the story continues and we are now in chapter 101. Okay, so I will do the next 2 chapters very quickly today. And after this happens, there is obviously, he becomes a celebrity. Shantanu marries Satyavati. Mother Satyavati is married to Shantanu in a proper vivaha, Kshatriya vivaha happens there. And shortly thereafter, 2 sons are born to Satyavati, Chitrangada and Vichitravirya. So it's described that both of them, Chitrangada and Vichitravirya, were Tejasvis. They were very strong. They were like typical Kshatriyas. They were very effulgent, luminous, etc. They had several good qualities from their own father. And the activities of Chitrangada are described. Shantanu dies after some time. Chitrangada grows. First, Chitrangada is born. When he is quite, well grown, maybe like a teenager, maybe 18 years of age. I'm just guessing from the description. Exact numbers are not given there. So maybe 16 to 18 years of age, then Vichitravirya is born. So there's a big difference between him and his brother, Vichitravirya. They're not born one after the other. It's not like 1 year or 2 years difference as we see in many families today. It's a big difference between them. And a little after Vichitravirya is born, when Vichitravirya is still a small child, Shantanu passes away. He's now become quite old, and he leaves actually. He leaves the kingdom, and his death happens. He's gone. He's out of the picture. Right. So Chitrangada is crowned before he goes. He leaves for the forest, and Chitrangada is crowned as the king. And Chitrangada is a very young king. He's very young, very like almost like a Yuvaraja, maybe a little older than that. He's a young king, and he he's so in his youth, he also is we can say because of his position. You see, his position, his power. Because what Shantanu leaves him behind is a big empire, massive empire with so many kings subordinate and so on, and he's still very young. So he also has some amount of arrogance in him. So he wants to test this power. He wants to display his power. He wants everyone to know, right? Something like today we go to a conference, we get a certificate, we post it on social media. We do a 1 kilometer run and we show a medal, get a small medal on social media, right? Everybody should know, appreciate us. So people should know that I am the emperor. So he goes around, challenging other kings for war. He defeats them easily. He's got a huge army. He's himself very qualified, very trained. Shows his power, displays his might. Shows his might everywhere he goes, bullies people, right? Arrogance, government is there in him. He's not just a saintly king. He's not a Rajarishi. He's just a powerful king, a Tejasvi, very powerful, and also a bit arrogant. For his arrogance, he displays it out. He doesn't have any qualms in displaying it. He goes around challenging people, fighting with them. And eventually, he goes to the Devas. He goes to Swarga Loka. He manages to challenge the Devas and other beings. You see, apart from him, we are called Manushyas. Beings which live on this earth, people like us are called Manushya Loka. This is called Manushya Loka. We are called Manushyas. It's one type of being. Like this, there are other beings like Gandharvas, Devas, Vidyadharas, Kinnaras, Nagas. So there are different categories of beings which are all created by the Prajapatis. And they live in different levels of existence. So higher than the Bhuloka, we say Bhuvar Loka and then Swarga Loka. Within Swarga Loka, there are many categories of Swarga Loka. So among them, of interest in our story now, is a particular Loka called Gandharva Loka. So Gandharvas are one class of beings who are supposed to be experts in music, right? In Sangita Shastra. So there is one particular Gandharva whose name is also Chitrangada, coincidentally. So when this Chitrangada, the king here, son of Shantanu, is going around fighting with everybody and challenging everybody and showing his might, and now he started challenging people in the higher planetary systems, the higher states of existence. This Chitrangada becomes a little intrigued. He says, who's this guy? Kone? Why is he going around challenging people? Let me see what he can do. So this Chitrangada, he comes with his army and he talks to the Shantanu's son Chitrangada. And he tells him, look, I'm really curious about you and you have my same name. You've taken my name also. So what's going on? Tell me. So kya chal raha hai? So it's like, sometimes a bully comes to you and puts his little thumb on your chest and says, kya? That kind of thing. He comes to him like that, like a bully, and he says, what do you want? Tell me. So he says, if you really have dum in you, then fight with me. Show me your power. Okay? So this Chitrangada, Shantanu's son Chitrangada, gets agitated by that. And he says, okay, chalo, now I've met somebody who's really not afraid of me and I want to fight this. Okay, I'll show this guy who I am. So both of them want to show each other who they are. And there's a war. So they go to Kurukshetra. Kurukshetra is a place where major arranged battles happen. Okay, and they're not spontaneous, but arranged. So go to Kurukshetra, and it is said that it's mentioned in this place that Mother Saraswati flows through Kurukshetra. Okay, so at that time, you can imagine when she was flowing in our country. So she was passing through Kurukshetra. That's one of the places she passes through. And I went to Google Maps and checked up how does Kurukshetra stand in comparison to Ganga and Yamuna. Because ultimately they are supposed to join in Prayagraj. So we have Mother Ganga flowing to the extreme east among the three of them. Then to the west of Ganga is Yamuna, which today flows along the border of Uttarakhand and Haryana. And Kurukshetra is further to the west in Haryana. So Ganga, Yamuna, and Saraswati. So Saraswati is flowing through Kurukshetra, and then I presume that she flowed south of Yamuna. She came down further to the west and then south of Yamuna and eventually joined. both of them in Prayagraj. So on the bank of Mother Saraswati in Kurukshetra, there was a fierce, extremely fierce battle between the two Chitrangadas with their respective armies. Eventually what happens? Because the Devas are always stronger than the Manusyas. So the Deva Chitrangada wins and he kills this Chitrangada. This Chitrangada gets killed in that war. All is governed. This eventually concludes in his death. So when this happens, Bhishma is now left without a king. Okay, what is Bhishma's orientation? Bhishma has promised his father that I will take care of the kingdom. Okay, it's implicit. The moment he says that I renounce the kingdom and I will make the son of Satyavati as the king, implicitly understood that because he knows that his father also wants him to actually run the kingdom. So he's implicitly that, I am responsible for the way the kingdom will run. So my brothers will actually be the kings, but I will be the person ensuring that it will run properly. So now he had crowned the Chitrangada and he had mentored him, he had set him up. Everything was going on well, and now this fellow has gone and killed himself. So what do I do? Vichitravirya at that point of time is still very young, and there is no one to rule. He's not even a teenager. It said that he was not even in his Yuvavastha. Yuvavastha means that the time at which you become a teenager, you reach puberty and become a teenager. That's when you're called Yuva, Yuvaka or Yuvati. So he is not yet there. He's probably maybe 8 years or 9 years or 10 years old. Okay. So what do I do? So Bhishma immediately takes charge of the kingdom. He is not crowned as the king. His vow is intact. But he ensures that the kingdom runs for some time. And with Mother Satyavati's permission, eventually, he crowns Vichitravirya, even as a Balaka, as a king, before becoming the Yuva, he crowns him as the next king, as a Yuvaraj. So he sits on the throne, but Bhishma runs the kingdom. Bhishma mentors him and runs the affairs of the kingdom. So everything is run by him with his approvals and so on. But Vichitravirya is the final signatory of everything. He is the final person saying, okay, this is done. But he does whatever his elder brother tells him. Okay, Bada Bhai is running the show. So then what happens? Vichitravirya grows up and he becomes old enough to get married. He's now a teenager. And in those days, by about 18 to 20, the men would be married. The girls, by the time they're 12, 13, and actually it became even younger after that. Girls at the age of 5 to 8 years also would be married, but not stay with the father. Stay with the father till they reach their age of puberty. But here, Vichitravirya is about, maybe you can think 16 to 18 years of age, and it's time to think of his marriage. Because after all, he should expand now. His dynasty should expand. He should have children. They should get trained before his life is over. The children should be ready to take over. So Bhishma is thinking of all that. So Bhishma says, next logical thing to do is to find suitable wives for my brother, Vichitravirya. So the news comes that the king of Varanasi, Kashiraj, okay, his daughters have grown up and they are now eligible to be married. They are about 16 years of age. He has 3 daughters. Their names are Amba, Ambika, and Ambalika. Right? Amba, Ambika, Ambalika. They are ready for marriage. And of course, the Mahabharata describes their character. They are very sadguna. They have, the qualities are full. They're very, virtuous in their character. And they are also very good looking. They're very charming girls, 3 girls. And they're very eligible to get married to whichever suitor. So he arranges a Swayamvara. The Swayamvara is one of the modes in which a Kshatriya's daughter is married, right? In which the girls, they choose the suitor. They go and choose the suitor, whom they like, whom they think is the thing. So kings from all over, the announcement is made, the message goes to all the kingdoms, and the kings from all over the country come there who are interested in marrying his daughters. They come there, and Bhishma also turns up there. Bhishma goes alone. He doesn't go with any major army. So normally when kings come, just like today, if a king or if a prime minister or a president goes somewhere, a lot of other people will go with that person, right? His convoy goes with him. All the accompanying, the IAS officers, the bureaucrats, the cooks, some military people also will travel with him for his protection, right? But Bhishma goes only with his chariot here, his chariot and the horses and him. He goes alone, and he has got some plan in mind to bring those things, right? To bring those girls. And other kings have come with their armies and everything. They come with their paraphernalia. So Bhishma goes there, and the Swayamvara begins with the introduction of all the kings. One by one, the king of Kashi is introducing those things to the public and saying who have come, and what are their good qualities, what are their achievements, etc. And the daughters also will know, and the daughters also are looking. The daughters also are present there. They are all ready for the Swayamvara to begin, and they're all looking at the kings and everything. And Bhishma turns up there. And the moment they see Bhishma, he's a odd man out, because he's very, very elderly compared to all of them. His hair already has turned white. Okay, his beard, his hair is white, and you can make out looking at his face that he's not of the same age as the other kings. The other kings are all young, maybe in their 20s, maybe early 30s, right? And Bhishma alone probably is 50, 60, whatever age, where he's much older than them. And obviously not in an age when you can vie for a wife with other kings of much younger than you for these girls, right? He's clearly an odd man out. So he suddenly turns up there and he takes a seat. He's also welcome because after all, he's a great king. And he's also an odd man out for another reason, that he has taken a vow of brahmacharya. So what is a man who has taken a vow of brahmacharya and says, and was publicly declared that I will not get married, and who has not got married so far? What is he doing in a Swayamvara, right? That stands out, sticks out. And so the girls, when they look at him, they get scared and they just move away from there. They run away. I would not say run away, I would say they move away from there, because they are worried that, if this person is here, we can't be in his presence. We definitely can't marry a person like him. So they move away from there. And among the kings, they're all looking at him. There are some kings who are not so cultured. There's some people who don't know how to talk, don't know what to say. They start ridiculing Bhishma. They say, this fellow has come here. Okay, they speak to each other. They speak to each other in a manner that he can also hear. He said, why has this fellow come here? He's so old. And at this age, he's developed a desire to marry these young girls. And also he has taken a vow. What happened to that vow? He's forgotten his vow just because these girls are so attractive. What does he want? Why is he here? They start making very loose comments on him. They start ridiculing. Then Bhishma decides, okay, now I should reveal why I have come here. No longer I can tolerate this nonsense going on, and this will not help the Swayamvara also. So he gets up and he resorts to an option given in the Dharma Shastra, that if a Kshatriya has to get married, one way is this Swayamvara. There's also an option where you can forcefully take away the girls. Just like if you see Arjuna's marriage with Subhadra. Arjuna forcefully takes away Subhadra. Krishna arranges for that. He wants Subhadra to marry with Arjuna, right? So in the system, it is allowed that a king, if he feels that he has the qualification to do this, then he can forcefully take away that princess with him, and he can challenge the kings. He has to challenge the kings that now I have taken her away, she is mine. If you think that you are eligible to marry her, then you should defeat me. If you defeat me, you can take her. Until then, she is mine. So he goes to where the girls are and he takes them. Unka apaharan karte hain. Apaharan word is used. There's apaharan of those girls. So how it actually happens, I can't visualize, but I can imagine that he probably told them that now please get into my chariot. You're going to come with me. And they obediently follow, because he's after all an emperor, right? He's a status of an emperor there. He's even higher than their father. So they are now sitting in his chariot. And so he turns to the kings and he openly challenges them. He says that if you want them, then please fight with me. I'm taking them otherwise. They are mine. So he then turns, he sits in the chariot and he starts moving. And he drives his chariot at top speed. He just goes, he says, I'm now gone from here. He starts going. But the kings, they can't believe what happened. Suddenly he came and people were ridiculing him and the scene was going in one direction. Now suddenly, all of a sudden, in a few minutes, it has changed color and gone. Princes have gone. There's no Swayamvara. So they become extremely angry. They lose their temper. We have come here, we brought all army, prepared everything. We went to the gym. Last 3 months, we were in the gym, building our body. We're getting ready for this princess. And now, kya ho gaya? So they get into their chariots. It is described here how it's very beautiful, this Mahabharata description in chapter 102 of the Adi Parva. You must read it. It's described that the kings, they saw on the one hand that they were all decked up. They were not decked up for fighting a war. Because for fighting a war, you wear your weaponry. You wear shields, armor, shields. You wear your bow, your quivers, and your crown for helmet for the war. The particular kind of dress. If you go to a Swayamvara, obviously you're not going to go like that. You're dressed up in a way that looks like you go to a party, right? You will wear some sherwani or a t-shirt or whatever you think is suitable for that party. So they are dressed up for that party, that Swayamvara party. So it's described here. It's a little comical also how they very quickly, because he was also going away at full speed. He's going away at full speed and they have to catch him also. He's challenged them, he's made them angry. So at top speed, they tried to change from that dress to the weapon, the battle dress. They got battle ready to become battle ready. They started changing their dress and they had to then remove all the ornaments they were wearing. And it's described that there was a downpour of jewels there. Gold and diamonds and everything were falling all over the place like a vrishti because of this behavior of those kings. They were panicking. So in that panic, all this happened. And eventually it's described that they somehow managed to get onto their chariots. Maybe some of them were doing it as the chariot was moving because they didn't want to leave Bhishma to get away. And they drove at obviously a greater speed than him and they catch up with him and they start shooting arrows at him. So then it's described that Bhishma and the kings had a major war. It's a massive war there on the spot. Bhishma turned his chariot and he could very easily take them on because Bhishma is an Athirathi. So there are different types of warriors, Ardharathi, Rathi, Maharathi, and Athirathi. Okay, different levels. So Ardharathi and Rathi, the difference between them is one Rathi can fight with two Ardharathis. Two Ardharathis can together, or one Rathi can together take on two Ardharathis. A Maharathi, it is said, is one who can take on 10,000 Rathis. 1:10,000. That's the level of training he has. And Atirathi is so powerful that he can take on any number of Rathis or Maharathis. He's not afraid. He's so skilled that he's like Arjuna, for example, Arjuna, Bhishma. They're the level of Atirathi. So he's an Atirathi. So for him to take on these a few kings, and this kind of mentality, right? For him, it's no big deal at all. So he takes them on. It's described that, eventually he defeats them. They shoot at him number of arrows, a large number of arrows and this and that. And he encounters all that. And then he doesn't kill anybody. They're defeated. And then they stop there. So he turns around and continues to go this way. Now there is one king who still does not give up. And his name is Shalva. There's a king by name Shalva. And there's a reason why he's still not giving up. That will come later. But for now, it's described that he continued to pursue and he was even more ferocious. It's extremely ferocious. So he comes behind Bhishma and he challenges Bhishma again. He says, defeat me if you have the guts to do that. It's described that he was actually much more powerful than those kings. So again, there's a war between Bhishma and Shalva is defeated. And so with Shalva's defeat, Shalva bows his head and he goes back. So all the kings, the other kings are waiting. They're hoping that Shalva at least will defeat him. But Shalva also gets defeated. And so all the kings, Shalva and all the kings, they go back. So Bhishma reaches the kingdom with the three girls, Amba, Ambalika, and Ambika, Amba, Ambika, and Ambalika, and hands them over and brings them to Mother Satyavati and tells her that this is my plan. I've brought them for Vichitravirya. They will marry Vichitravirya and they will expand the dynasty. So when this happens, Amba, the eldest of them, she comes to Bhishma and she very politely tells him that I didn't have an opportunity to speak to you so far because it all happened so fast, but I must reveal something to you, that I have already had a craving or a hankering for marrying Shalva, the person who was following us. And Shalva also was hankering for me. We both had an understanding that we will marry each other. We both wanted to marry each other. And so it was my plan that in the Swayamvara, I will pick him and I will marry him. So please let that happen. Don't force me to marry Vichitravirya. So Bhishma immediately consults his ministers that this is what happened. I've brought them here and they're supposed to marry him. But now this girl is saying this. What should I do? And it is resolved that she should be allowed to go and marry Shalva. There's no debate there. There's no discussion. So he permits her to go. Okay, now what happens after that is not described in chapter 102. That will come a few chapters later. But what happens next is that Vichitravirya marries Ambika and Ambalika. Vichitravirya marries both of them. And this marriage is conducted in a very grand manner with because after all they are the they are now going to become the dynasty, right? The dynasty is going to expand from here. The queens have been appointed, and now it's complete. The picture is complete. So when Shantanu departed, there was only Bhishma, and then there were two kings, and they were not ready, and there was no queen, and a lot of confusion. But now things have settled. Okay, there's a king in place. There are two queens, and there's also a support system like Bhishma and everything. So stability has come. Okay, but then again calamity comes. So what happens? Vichitravirya, he's again just like his brother, elder brother Chitrangada. He's young, but he's not arrogant like his brother. Instead, he is lusty. So he lusty in the sense that I want to enjoy life. Like we say now, I want to have a good life. So he thinks of a good life because after all, he's a prince and he's now a king also. He's got everything. He's got all the Aishwarya, he's got all the opulence, the riches, the magnificence. And he's got two beautiful wives as well, right? So everything is there. And it's described that he began to indulge with them. He started indulging with them excessively. And excessive indulgence eventually led to a disease. And that is called as Raja Yakshma or Raja Yakshma. Okay, Raja Yakshma in both Sanskrit and Hindi translates to tuberculosis. So he contracts because of the bad karma that he gets. The karma that he gets by indulgence, excessive indulgence, leads to this disease in him called tuberculosis or Raja Yakshma. And because of the Yakshma, he eventually dies. So the best cure in the kingdom is not able to address the problem. The disease is so grave that he eventually meets his death. He passes away. So you can see what happened. Both Chitrangada and Vichitravirya, they were actually Tejasvis. They were sons of Shantanu. And they had the opportunity to live a good life. They had the opportunity to continue the dharmic character that their father had built up. And their own elder brother was demonstrating and training them in. But both of them deviate. One of them becomes arrogant, starts fighting with the other Kshatriyas, takes on somebody that he should not have taken on. And the other guy gets into sense indulgence. He's like a spoiled kid. He becomes something like that. Okay, although he is still living by dharma, he performs his duties, but he indulges, excessively indulges, and ends up contracting a disease and dying. So what does it mean? It means that Bhishma is back to square one. So Bhishma had this, responsibility of performing his father's Antima Kriya. He performs the Antima Kriya for his two elder brothers as well, younger brothers as well. He has two younger brothers whom he has taken responsibility of from his father. He wants to fulfill his father's dream. His father's dream, what is his father's dream? That the kingdom should run well, dharma should continue. Okay, every dharmic Kshatriya thinks that dharma should continue after I go. I should leave behind with me a legacy of dharma, and that will continue after me. That's his father's dream as well. And Bhishma has taken the charge of that. He's taken responsibility of that. But unfortunately, both the brothers that he had, longingly had longed to groom them into dharma, and he was doing his best, but they don't live up to the expectations that is placed upon them, and both of them die young, leaving behind Bhishma in the same spot at which he started out. So Bhishma is back in square one now, and so is Mother Satyavati. Mother Satyavati also has this responsibility, right? She's the queen, and she has to now decide. So this is the second major dilemma that Bhishma faces. So that's why I say that Bhishma is a very good example of an inspirational leader, corporate leader, a genuine corporate leader who wants to do good in society, does not have an easy life, just like Bhishma didn't have. He had right from the beginning, right? As soon as he was born, his mother tried to kill him, even if it was just an action. Then his father had to stop that. And then he was brought up somewhere, they say boarding school under his mother's tutelage, came back, handed over to his father. Mother left and went. Just think of a person's life like that. He was brought up, but his nobility, his character, extremely, perfect. Extreme case of a perfect character of a person who does dharma, who knows what dharma means and why it should be done, how it should be done. Right. So then he has to face this dilemma of his father wanting something, father wanting two different things, and he resolves that dilemma in a very creative manner. Nobody thinks of that solution, right? Out of the box thinking. He resolves it, and he thinks that it's done. Problems are solved now, but again, he's back to square one. Now he has a dilemma. He's back. The kingdom has no king. He cannot marry. He has taken a vow. So how does he resolve that? What happens next? Okay, so that we will see going forward. I will stop with this for today, and I'm sure that you have some questions to ask me today. Yeah, Prapti.
So, sir, when you said that Bhishma was following Dharma when he was getting the daughters of the king from Varanasi.
Yes.
But if today somebody tries to practice same Dharma, it is.
Yes. And so many things which are possible in the Dwapar Yuga, in other yugas, are not possible today. One more simple thing I'll tell you. Devarena Sutotpatyam. That is banned in Kali Yuga. Said Ashwamedham Gavalambam Sanyasam Palapaitrikam Devarena Sutotpatyam Kalau Pancha Vivarjayet. 5 things are prohibited in the Kali Yuga according to this particular shloka. Okay, I think probably this comes in Manusmriti. Jayashri can confirm that. One is Ashwamedha. Ashwamedha Yaga is prohibited in the Kali Yuga. Even if somebody can do it, it is not meant to be done. Then Gavalamba. Gavalamba is sacrificing a go's life in some appropriate yajna. Ashwamedha, a horse is sacrificed. In Gavalamba means a cow is sacrificed in some appropriate sacrifice according to Vidhi of Dharma in some context. Not for eating food, not for eating meat, not for eating beef. Okay, Gavalamba, that is prohibited in Kali Yuga. Then Sannyasa. The Sannyasa ashrama is prohibited in Kali Yuga. Okay, the third thing. Then Palapaitrikam, eating meat. Okay, so in the other yugas, meat is not a normal food. It is allowed in certain ceremonial sacrifices. Some consumption of meat is allowed as a process of the ceremony. It is not allowed as a diet, as a matter of diet. Okay, vegetarian food is the food for human beings. Okay, but in certain conditions, it's allowed. So that also is not allowed in Kali Yuga, Palapaitrikam. Oh, sorry, this is not about consumption of meat. Palapaitrikam actually means offering meat to the Pitris, to our forefathers, ancestors, Pitris. Yeah. So in Kali Yuga, in earlier yugas, under some conditions, that offering was allowed. Offering of meat to a forefather was allowed under certain conditions. That's not normal. But even that is not allowed in Kali Yuga. That's the fourth thing. And fifth one, Devarena Sutotpatti. That is having a child through the brother of your husband, elder brother or younger brother. Okay, in case your husband is not able to give a woman's, your means husband, if a woman's husband is not able to give her a child for whatever reason, maybe the husband is not, not fertile or not able to generate the required this thing, and or if the husband has passed away, okay, then a brother can bear child in the womb of that lady as the son of that husband. That child will be considered as a son of that husband, not as this person's son, even though biologically it's this person's son. That's called Devarena Sutotpatti. There is a particular process for that. That is done as a vidhi of dharma. It is not done randomly. It's not like arbitrarily done. It is done under instruction by the guru, by mothers, by parents, the instruction. And we will see that happening after some time in the Mahabharata, in the same story as it continues. But that is prohibited now. And therefore, what happened in the Swayamvara where Bhishma forcibly takes away these princesses for his brother, for his younger brother, that is strictly prohibited in the Kali Yuga. That is not allowed in the Kali Yuga. If it's done in the Kali Yuga, it will be kidnapping, it will be a crime. Yeah. Yeah.
So, but a follow-up question. So, but we see lots of Babajis today in Kali Yuga.
Yeah, I had the same question.
Yeah. So, sannyas ashram, as per the Shastra, the Varnashrama sannyas is strictly not allowed. In the Gaudiya Sampradaya, there is no sannyas.
But so your Guru Maharaj was.
No, it's not sannyas. It's not sannyas. Babaji is not a sannyas.
So what is the difference?
Sannyas is a well-defined thing. It's like it follows certain procedures and it has certain niyam, sannyas niyam, certain mantras are to be chanted as a sannyas.
So,
Babaji is a renowned state in
Ah.
which there's renunciation is allowed. But what is called the label sannyas is not given to them.
so how do we depend on this Shankaracharya?
Shankaracharya
Ah.
took sannyas, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also
Yes,
took sannyas.
correct.
Yeah. So I don't know how they explain it, how they exactly explain that.
Dattatreya was also sannyasi.
Yeah. So there have been many sannyasis in the Kali Yuga,
Ah.
like prominent people like Shankara. Ramanuja was a sannyasi. Madhvacharya was a sannyasi, and Madhva's sampradaya today, the acharyas take sannyas. They are all sannyas, considered as sannyasis. Ramanuja sampradaya takes sannyasis. Shankara sampradaya takes sannyasis. So all the Shankaras, even those who came in the news recently,
Ah.
they're all sannyasis. They're considered as sannyasis.
Or is it like the sannyas dharma after 75 year, according to Varnashram? So that is prohibited. After 75, you take sannyas in Varnashram dharma. That is prohibited, probably.
In the case of Mahaprabhu, the reason why that he gives, the reason that Mahaprabhu gave for taking sannyas is described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Even though after him, in his sampradaya, nobody has taken sannyas. Okay, that sannyas is not allowed. But the reason that he took sannyas, he says, is only because at that point of time, the population regarded the sannyasis as the people who had the ultimate knowledge. So he had to, like I was telling you 2 days back also, he had to encounter the Shankara sannyasis, the Advaiti sannyasis, like Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya in Puri and Prakashananda Saraswati in Varanasi. And there are debates described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. He had engaged in intellectual debates with them and convinced them of his viewpoint. Or rather, they became convinced of his viewpoint after hearing his, encountering with him. So to be able to even do that, he realized he has to be a sannyasi first. Unless he does that, he cannot take this thing. So before him, his guru was a sannyasi. And his guru's guru also. His guru is Ishwarapuri. His guru's guru is Madhavendrapuri. They were all sannyasis. And they were in the line of Madhva. Madhvacharya's line is full of sannyasis. So sannyas, I think, was taken by these people in the Kali Yuga only for the sake of prachar, because prachar is something that requires a status. Just like we say today that unless you have a PhD, you cannot become a faculty member. So you may have the knowledge to become a faculty member. You may be qualified to teach in terms of your knowledge. You have enough knowledge to teach the subject, let us say. Many people do, right? Many people in the industry also have a lot of knowledge. They don't have a PhD. But the institutes today don't take them because the government has made a requirement that you must have minimum so many PhDs, so many percentage PhDs in the institute. So if you have to apply and get into a good institute, you should have a PhD degree. So for that sake, they do a PhD, not because they want to do a PhD otherwise. And doing a PhD, obviously, you will learn something new, naturally. The process of PhD is educative process. But even without that, you could have become a professor. You could have taught. Right? So something like that, for the sake of meeting that requirement that people will take our vachan, just like Shankara, when Shankara was there, you see the context. The Buddhists had become dominant, right? Buddha had come much before him, a few hundred years before Shankara, and he had established Buddhism as a dominant intellectual paradigm in the country. So Adi Shankara came with the intention that I will displace Buddhism. I will show that what the Veda says, is Tattva. So his life involved encountering Buddhists. Many of his prominent disciples are former Buddhists who became converted after debating with him.
So,
Did you understand this reason, what I gave you now?
Sir, I understand the prachar thing, but again, if we talk about Shankaracharya and Bhajagovind, so I don't know if I recollect correctly, but there is a verse ki Balavastha Krida Saktah, Tarunavastha Taruni Saktah, Vriddhavastha Chinta Saktah, Brahmo Kopi Nasakta, something like that.
Yeah.
So doesn't it say it's not just something only for prachar, but something to practice too? Sannyas, or maybe say thinking about Brahma. Or here he is not
Even
talking
without
about sannyas.
sannyas, without sannyas, one can do bhakti or jnana. Sannyas is an ashram which is a social thing. Sannyas is a social identity. Sannyas is a social identity. It's not required for consciousness. it facilitates you because it sort of gives you just like a PhD facilitates you to become a faculty member, and thereby gives you certain other benefits. It gives you a status in society, and then gives you certain powers. You can work with other PhD students, you can guide them, and you can create research. In this manner, sannyas gives you access to certain social things. But if it's purely for the sake of knowledge, you don't need sannyas. Just like for the sake of knowledge, you don't need a PhD. You can acquire any amount of knowledge, you can write papers, you can create a whole theory of your own without doing a PhD. Correct? PhD is a degree. The sannyasi is a label, social label.
Right.
And an acharan which comes with that. Unless you practice the acharan, you will not be respected as a sannyasi.
Correct.
Right?
So
Yeah,
one thing,
Kedar.
I feel sick. So Vishnu kidnapped, he goes to get them married to his brother. Now, what might have stopped him from kidnapping Satyavati in the first place to get married to his brother? I mean, you can stop me if you can. I mean, I'm getting married to get her married to my father, like he did these 3 girls to his brothers. Why did he have to take that vow? And just because I'm not saying, so when he did with Satyavati, it looked like he's sacrificing. But if he could just kidnap girls at a later point of time, he could have done it earlier also.
Yes. So you can actually ask the question a little differently. You can say, what stopped Shantanu from doing that? Shantanu also was a king. He could have himself kidnapped Satyavati and not had this
I did
separation.
not ask that about Shantanu because at a later point of time of his life, he did not do something like that. But Bhishma did. That's what my question is. I mean, when initial point of time when Bhishma did not kidnap, rather he actually sacrifices, I understood. Unless you do not do something like that at a later point of time of your life out of convenience, because you can just do it.
Again, sir.
See, in the case of Bhishma, what was Bhishma's mentality? What was he thinking? Now, when he went to Shantanu, his father, tried to understand what is making him sad, he found that this was the reason that made him sad. He did his investigation, background checks and everything, and found out that this is the real reason. So he understood that the only way to get her now to my father is to make sure that the fisherman is happy without displeasing him. So if, for example, if he had kidnapped Satyavati and brought her here and say, I don't care for the fisherman would have been very unhappy with that thing. Fisherman wanted that promise that you first promise me that her son will become the king, and then I will give her to you. So that is the process that his father followed. So his father would be happy only if he met that thing, that condition. Otherwise, if he kidnapped her and brought her there, even if he could have done it, his father would not have been happy. Right? Father would have been said, why did you bring her like that? Go back and return her. Father would have just said like that.
So then here it comes about motivation, like why he
Yeah,
did it
mentality.
in the first place, the mentality, the
Mentality.
intention.
Yeah,
I get it.
mentality.
But then in case of Ambala, Ambika and Ambalika,
The king of Kashi would have been very pleased to see that his daughters were taken away by Bhishma.
so the point is now those could be any women or any girl that could got married to
Vichitravirya.
then why to kidnap somebody in the first place? Because if it is the case, in case of
Because he wants qualified girls, the best. He wants the best for just like any father today, when he's looking for a match for his daughter or for his son, he would want the best possible alliance that he can get, given his son's qualification, age, their caste, whatever. All the considerations given, what is the best? So that's why a lot of negotiation happens, no, arranged marriage. So every father wants the best for their child. So naturally, Bhishma wants the best for Vichitravirya. So these are the best available at that point of time. So he goes there and he is determined to get them only. They are the best available.
Another probable reason could have been that he was ridiculed at that point in time. Looking at him, many kings discussed about him that he's a little person, why is he here? And he was ridiculed there and like mistreated there. Probably is like state of anger or something would have come into his mind.
That won't change. No, see, the larger plan is to do this, what he did.
Yeah.
The ridiculing that he heard would have just triggered off saying, I'll do it right now.
Yes.
I won't wait anymore.
Yes.
Otherwise, he would have waited for the Swayamvara to begin and some things to happen and probably done the same thing at a later point of time.
Yes.
So the ridiculing there was just a trigger that let's not wait anymore.
Yes.
There's no need to begin, the Swayamvara to begin or anything. Right now itself, finish it off.
So in one of the other versions, like which I heard.
This is Vyasadeva's version, the original Mahabharata.
But I just followed one more where they said that the Kashi's king, he didn't invite the Kurus, and already before that there was some animosity between these two particular empires. So when he was searching for like suitable brides for Vichitravirya, so he found that there are suitable brides who can match to this suitability, but he didn't invite Vichitravirya or Purus to this ceremony. So like he goes there with this thing that I'll take all three daughters and bring him here.
This is not mentioned here. I'll check it out which version and whether it's given in Mahabharata. I'll check with Jayashree also if she's aware of it,
Yes.
or I will see if I can find it. But in the Vyasa Bharata, this is not mentioned that
Yes.
he went forcefully and he took them away forcefully, didn't wait for the Swayamvara to happen. Anyway, if he had gone by the Swayamvara process, the girls would not have chosen him. It's mentioned that they went away from him. They saw him and they got concerned. Why is this elderly man coming here? And they went away. So they would not have chosen him definitely.
Yes.
And they should not choose him also, because after all, he doesn't want to get married.
Yes.
Right? If they choose him, for example, then that would cause more complication. Right? So it works as per his plan. He has a plan to go there. And the fact that or the understanding that he was not invited is not explicitly given in this chapter in the Mahabharata. I will check if it's elsewhere.
Why didn't he ask his brother to go then?
But
Why didn't he ask his brother directly?
Probably he
to go?
felt his brother was not yet old enough to
Mhm.
go through this process.
in the in the Satyavati's part,
Yeah.
there was like consensus between Shantanu and Satyavati.
Hmm.
And also like even the fisherman said that I would be very much pleased that
Yes, I want you to marry me.
married to
Yes,
you.
but I have also want
Yeah, so because of that, I guess Shantanu was like he was wise enough to like understand like that these people are still, they like me, they understand me, but I cannot like disobey what they expect from me.
Yeah.
Maybe I cannot do this, and that's why he went into like he was so sad about that he cannot marry. Even after that, there was so much like positive side. Like they were like agreeing, but only because of the condition we cannot marry.
It was primarily sad because of the paradox. That's was the dilemma that if he wants to marry, then Bhishma cannot be the king, and he
Yes.
wanted Bhishma. So
Yes.
he was the father was ready to sacrifice his desire for Bhishma, and Bhishma was ready to sacrifice his desire for the father.
Yes.
So
So maybe because of that, he didn't take away
Yeah,
he didn't
kidnap.
take away Satyavati forcefully.
yeah,
And
yeah.
It would have been bad conduct if he had
Yeah,
married
but-
Satyavati and his
May I
father would
answer
not
that
have been
question?
pleased with it.
yes, yes,
His father would have probably said, you take her back. I don't want like this.
yes.
So may,
Unless the fisherman is happy, I don't want to take her.
Yes.
He would have
so
said.
may
this.
I
He would have said that.
may I
I
add
mean-
this to sir? So may I
Yeah,
add?
you want to add something?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, this is what I have read in Mahabharata. This is against the act of dharma, because being an emperor or being a king, it is wrong to kidnap civil people. So this will spread arajakta. That is why it is condemned to kidnap a Satyavati there. But in the other context, which you have said that in that Swambara, that is with the dharma, because this is there is a protocol, there is a way by which one can kidnap a Swambar and go the process. So these are two different things.
Yeah, Dharma gives a provision for that, for a king to kidnap a princess and challenge the other kings. He's willing to challenge them. He's not kidnapping them covertly. He's kidnapping
Right.
them in open.
Right.
They
But
they
in
can
the-
challenge him. They
In
can
the
fight.
other case, there will be no dharma if the emperor king is starting to kidnap a civil woman. So that is why it is condemned there.
But sir, kidnapping is wrong, right? I mean, Ravan kidnapped Sita. That's fine. I mean,
But in the
So that's why, see, what happens is, we look at
Because
it.
he kidnapped against their wishes, right? So
The point is this, that dharma, it is said, is dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhayam. Dharma is complex, and the essence of dharma is nihitam guhayam. It is hidden in a cave. What happens is, when we try to interpret dharma, we interpret through our lens, through the lens that we have been conditioned to. Today, we have been brought up in this society, with this constitution, these laws. Right? So our mind is trained in this. So today, in our context, kidnapping is definitely wrong. No doubt about it. But in this context, the Vyasa explains there.
So that was a regular conduct. I mean, that was a acceptable
conduct. Not regular conduct.
Not regular, sorry, acceptable conduct.
Acceptable conduct. And
Okay.
Bhishma knows that. Bhishma is described as a person who is a dharmajnani. He's perfect in dharma. He knows what is dharma.
Maybe it's all about intentions. Robert's intentions, kidnapping Mata Sita was not good.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Ravan's intention was not good, and the way he did it also was not proper. Ravan kidnapping Mother Sita is, in terms of action, also is not the same as the
And
Bhishma
Sita was
kidnapped.
already married then.
Married, yes.
And
So
it's not.
First of all, Sita is married. Secondly, he does it
Overtly.
With a hermit.
overtly in a very chala, using chala. Chala means deceit. In a deceitful manner. He dresses as a sannyasi, goes there. How does Bhishma do it? He doesn't do it in deceit. He goes openly as a king. And he challenges them. See, I'm taking them away. Now, if you want them back, then defeat me. That is dharma. Openly. There's no deceit there.
So yeah, if I'm not wrong, such kind of practice to take away the groom also is there somewhere in some parts of Bihar also.
I have heard this.
Until now also. That's
Yes.
there. Though the groom, they take away the girl side, they take away the groom also.
Okay. Still,
Before
that's
2 days of marriage.
People practice that.
Yes. Until now. There are few
Yeah, so dharma has evolved in some way, and within communities there are certain norms still existing in certain ways. Within those communities, it may be considered okay to do something like that. There are still, see, that's why in today's culture, there are so many differences in practices. What is considered okay, not okay. So what is okay in my community may not be okay in your community. That's quite possible. That's something that we have to accept it as a natural evolution.
So, is this swayamvars were that particular activities or those particular arenas where all the kings used to also display their suitability for being a good match to the princess
Yes.
whom they are going. Like in the case of Arjuna, they had to go through that test.
Yes.
Only one person who can prove that I am the only one who will be able to take care of this princess in the best possible manner would be able to. So maybe also in this Kshatriya particular in this particular context, Bhishma through that particular his action, he was challenging also others that if you can, then we are the most suitable, we can take
Yes,
care of
that
all
option
these-
is given, yes.
Yes.
If you don't follow the normal Swayamvara process, then this option is also available. If you have the courage to do it. Now, many kings won't do it.
Yes.
Most kings will not do it.
Yes.
I mean, imagine one king has to fight with n other kings who are there.
Yes.
Maybe some 100 kings are gathered there.
Yes.
He has to take them on. Which
Yes.
king will be ready for that?
No one. will.
No one will be ready for that, right?
Yes.
So it's, even though the provision is given, it's understood that in the extreme rare cases, that provision will get exercised by somebody.
Yes.
Unless somebody of Bhishma status comes there, they won't exercise that option. And they're all intelligent kings. They're all trained in dharma. They know what is correct, wrong. Right? Yeah. Okay. We have forgotten the online. Rajpreet, you had asked, raised your hand.
Thank you, sir, for sharing the amazing story of Bhishma. I had one question. So I remember that later on, Amba's vengeance, and then the whole story of Shikhandi, which becomes like the reason for his defeat in the war and also his death eventually. So, the Amba's claim to towards vengeance is not justified because the moment the moment Bhishma came to know about Amba and Shalkumar, he actually sent her back. Then he did not accept her. So it was not really Bhishma's real fault to be holding that vengeance, and he was anyways, oath bound, so he couldn't have accepted her. So I felt, could not understand that how was Amba's whole vengeance act justified.
What we'll do is when we come there, the story has now just reached a point where
Okay.
Vichitra has left, and
Okay.
Amba's vengeance on Bhishma will come after a few chapters. So
Sure,
when,
sure, sure. Okay, okay.
when
I
we-
thought that while we've touched upon Amba, we could. Okay. You will be covering that. So
yeah, we'll be covering it, yeah.
sure,
Because part of Bhishma's story, right? Bhishma as the
sure,
whole-
sure. All
Alright.
right, sir. All right. Thank you. Sorry for
No, not at all.
asking it before time.
Not at all, not at all. Your questions are most welcome. So this, what we are covering right now, and the Bhishma story as a whole demonstrates how a leader in the world, in this material world, who follows dharma, who understands dharma and follows dharma, is always faced with difficult times, difficult challenges. So you see what Bhishma goes through his whole life, beginning till the end, till the point he leaves his body. At every point, he has to face some complex scenario which he tries to, find his way through, navigate through, using the principles of dharma. Using the principles of dharma, he works out solutions. He works out intelligent solutions. So first solution was for his father marrying Satyavati, and now for Vichitravirya. And after Vichitravirya is going away, what is he going to do next? So one by one, we'll see how he handles difficult situations, and he doesn't lose his composure. He doesn't give up. He never gives up. Okay, that's the meaning of a leader. Sticks to the principles of dharma, has firm faith in dharma. Whatever happens, I will not deviate from dharma. That kind of an attitude. Okay, in today's context, there would be a man or woman who says that whatever happens, I will not depart from righteousness, doing the right ethical thing. I will not do anything unethical. Even if I, don't become the most profitable person, even if I don't become a celebrity, even if I don't get this, I don't get that, I will still stick with the principles that are principles of humanity as they are understood today, and I will not deviate. And that's why Bhishma is such an inspiration to us, human beings.
So sorry, a related question here. I know it's almost time, but just a very quick question. You can answer it later also. That so I'm confused often between the dilemma of right versus right, especially in context of Mahabharata, because
Yeah.
here also his oath, which was his, according to him, his dharma, and he saw like in the interest of his father and but the welfare of the kingdom later also. Again, whether the kingdom was bigger than the oath or the oath was bigger than the kingdom. Again, right versus right kind of a conflict. So
Yes.
that's where I get confused.
I agree with you. A lot of places, this right versus right, two right things, and they conflict with each other. Like in this case, the kingdom and the future of, because the kingdom means a lot of other people are getting affected. There are so many stakeholders. It's not only him. It's not only about his punya. It's about the well-being of the entire population and of dharma in future. Not only today's population, but the future population as well will suffer if dharma dies today. So, absolutely, your question is very relevant. There are two right things conflicting with each other. So that is why a leader's position is a challenging position, and we just look at a case like a case study. We look at how he thought and how he handled it. If somebody else was in his shoes, he might have done something different, and then we would learn from that too, in that way. But here we learn from how Bhishma stuck to his vow, and that shows the commitment to a given vow. Satya. He repeatedly says that. Later on, you will see that when his mother tells him that after Vichitravirya dies, which I will come to in the next class, but just for your question, I'll just mention it now. that Satyavati tries to convince him to have children through Amba and Ambalika, through Ambika and Ambalika. But he politely declines. He says, no, I will not break that vow. Whatever happens, I will not break it, but I will work out a solution for you. He works out a solution. So, in this manner, Bhishma's path was the path that I once made a vow, once I've given a word, and then I will not break the word, even if whoever tells me, I will not break that word. And this he maintains till the end. Till the end, he maintains this. And we'll see that more instances of that coming up as we go forward. Om Swasti Prajabhyah Paripalayantam Nyayena Margena Mahishah Gobrahmanebhyo Shubhamastu Nityam Lokas Samastas Sukhino Bhavantu Om Tat Vishnoho Paramam Padagum Sada Pashyanti Surayah Dilivachakshuratatam Tad Vipraso Vipanyavo Jagruvagum Sasamindate Vishnu Yad Paramam Padam Paryapya Anantarayaya Sarvastamotiraatra Uttamamahar Bhavati Sarvasyapyai Sarvasya Jityai Sarvameva Tena Apnoti Sarvam Jayati Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Dhanyawad.